Hey there, Andy. How are you?
I'm good, Chef. How are you?
There was a pretty good accident right on the where 430 comes on to 40 to head 40 westbound.
Oh no.
I just barely walked through the door. I'm usually home about 440, 445.
That's terrible. That's the one negative about having to drive that far to work. You're at the mercy of.
Stupid drivers. It looked like it looked like just driving too fast. It was a flatbed trailer with a truck on the trailer.
Oh no.
It looks like maybe the trailer jackknifed or something, ended up on its side on the side of the road, and I don't know. It was just a mess.
I was not happy with my plate presentation this time. Hopefully, I can do better.
Um, you know, I'm trying to remember yours exactly. Uh, I wonder if I've got three. We'll look at tonight. I think I don't remember if
I
yours.
had my potatoes standing up. I think it would have been better
Oh,
if
that's
I
right.
would have put them in a bundle, maybe and tied a piece of chive around them. I don't know. I had to get it cooked before I did the content, and then I'm like, oh dang! If I had finished reading the chapter and watched some of the videos, I might have had a better idea or done this better. Because I went out of town. I just got back from the Ryder Cup. Um,
Oh,
my birthday's today, and that was my sort of my birthday present. So,
happy birthday!
well, thank you.
You didn't play, did you?
Oh, of course.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Do you play? I mean, I would imagine if you're
I do, but I'm not. I don't play well enough to, you know, that
com,
it
com,
matters. I do it for fun. Um, but those guys are good. It was an incredible, just an experience to see that many people and just I don't know. It's hard to describe the excitement of the U.S. playing Europe and how important it is to those people, I guess.
first. I uh I used to play. I like it, but yeah, when I play, it's kind of a comedy of errors, and especially if there's a water feature,
Yes.
that's like a magnet for I when I first started playing, I have kind of a natural straight swing, which is really good, but I'll lift my head up and I'll lift my body up just a little too early, and I would top the ball almost every time. So 30% of the time, I have a beautiful, 150, 200-yard drive. But the other 70% of the time, it's a beautiful straight swing. Hit the ball. I mean, the club face is just right, but I top it, and so I make it maybe 10 or 12 yards.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that's easily corrected with practice.
well, you need practice.
Well, it's like everything, right? Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly right. I have not put in the practice, and so, I go out on the golf course, and it's a comedy of errors. Um, some people will ask me, "What's your handicap?" And I just say golfing. That's my handicap.
Well, I say mental because I think mine is mental.
Uh, yeah.
So I actually had this whole big spill I wanted to bring up in class. I thought, well, or maybe email you. I'm having a recurring frustration having to do with I want to put my meal on the table hot simultaneously, and I feel getting better. I need to sequence it or figure out a way to have some things done early. I mean, we could do the butter early this time, but I mean, anyway,
You, you,
I'm still struggling with the logistics and the timing and the sequencing of getting a hot meal on the table and plated simultaneously.
okay. Well, let's talk about that tonight. Uh,
That's
Christy's
true.
on there. Hi, Christy.
Hi.
Did I cut you off? Were you about to say something? Do you share in Andy's frustration?
Do you want me to repeat it? Or do you want me to wait?
I don't know if she's trying to answer right now. Christy, your microphone is.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just got off work and I might be a little bit. I might be a little bit. a
Sorry,
little
that's what
trouble.
Andy and I was talking about. I just walked through the door. I usually get home about 45 minutes or so before class, but there was an accident out on 40. And so I just barely walked through the door myself. So I might be a little bit discombobulated as well. As we go through the night, and especially if it's just you two, I mean, this could go, we could go really quick, and we can spend a little more time talking about whatever your frustrations are and the things that you would, like to particularly focus on to make your plates better or to make serving a meal a little bit better. And we raised an issue already about, everything hitting the table hot.
That's the biggest. That's my issue right now. I mean, other than I, like kind of struggling with being creative. I'm a science person, so I'm not real creative,
Yeah, welcome to my world. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
Like,
finance type, so we're not real creative.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So Christy, you and Andy both, y'all are maybe so I'm the right brain of this group, and you two are left brain. If I got that, I might have got those switched mixed up, but I think the right brain are the creative people. They see the colors and all of that, and you guys are the analytical, all the detail stuff. And fortunately, the world and a kitchen needs all kinds. If we're all just the creative people in the kitchen, then we'll end up killing each other because, well, my vision is better than your vision. And, what do you mean your vision is, and we beat each other up. But at the same time, if a whole kitchen, I think this may be true with any discipline, if all of us are just the analytical people, then we never get anything done because we're analyzing, gathering all of the detail. And so the world just needs all kinds and all types. And we'll talk about getting everything on the table nice and hot. And let me see. All right, you should see knife, fork, and spoon sitting on a table. You see that? Good. All right. So three plates we'll look at, and I guess all the pressure is just on you two. So the same to address successes and suggestions. What do you like? Not just simply, oh, I like this plate, and not just simply I would do something different. What do you suggest? Some of these we deal with the quality of the photography. So this is not a photography class. So hopefully you can see this all right.
And Chef, I have a question. Were we supposed to prepare a sauce for this, or was that optional, or was that?
No, there wasn't a sauce this week.
Okay.
This past week was the compound butter, and that added the additional moisture, added juiciness to your steak. And so no, another sauce, a side sauce. If somebody did one, okay, fine. But this past week was the compound butter.
I like the way they stacked the steak. I guess, like it's interesting.
Mhm.
Like you look at it and it's not all going one direction or another direction. It's got some, like I don't know what the right word is or whatever, but it's got like it's a visual interest. Like my eye immediately goes to that and goes, I think I'm going to eat that first.
Okay, good.
Of course, I do everything like that. I pick one thing and I eat it first, and then I go to the next one. So even if the plate isn't compartmentalized, I'll do it anyways. So that's just, I eat like that. But I like that, and I think that their sauce looks like looks. I mean, I don't know how to other than say tasty. I mean, I think that looks like a good sauce to me. So. And
so I'm assuming maybe that's the melted butter, then the compound butter.
Yeah.
So I like the sort of stacked steak as well. The negative or critique, I guess, would be that it looks, at least for my taste, more that it looks more medium well than medium rare. But that's my preference on doneness, I guess.
How do you like the, it appears that the broccoli and potatoes are possibly prepared together, or they're at least plated together. What are your thoughts on that?
I would prefer them to be separate because I don't love broccoli. And
So you're going to eat them
that-
separate. You don't like
Yeah.
broccoli, and you don't want your peas touching your meatloaf.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's gained by mixing them all together. Maybe because you lose the contrast and you just kind of have this mush of stuff to the right of the steak. I'm being really critical now since you opened the door for us.
Open the door. You be critical. We're coming to the middle of the semester, and we can. I don't want us to beat each other up. We're learning from this, and so you are the sous chef of your restaurant. If this is the presentation plate that is brought to pre-service, that half hour, that little meeting we have a half hour before actual plating, before the restaurant opens, is this the entree plate that you want to put before your guests? If so, all thumbs up, we move on. If it's not quite what you would like, what would you want to see different? That's kind of what this experience needs to be. It sounds like we all liked the stacking of the steak. The assignment was medium rare. This is well done. And so we miss the degree of doneness, and that is a significant issue. We're learning. This is maybe the first time this person has grilled. And so on a learning, a positive note, and how I want all of you to feel as we approach other things this semester in this class, if you're going to jack it up, if you're going to mess something up, if you're going to overcook it, if you're going to undercook it, whatever the case may be, this is the appropriate time and place to do it. I don't want anybody to feel the pressure of, well, I've got to get this exactly just right. This is the learning experience. This is the learning moment. Soon, not in this class, but coming up, you will be applying all of these things to actually feed patrons. You'll provide restaurant service, and that's when there's a little more pressure on. When a guest orders or chef says, "We are selling this filet as medium rare," then you better be able to hit the medium rare and get the degree of doneness right. If we mess it up in this class, we can learn from it, and next week's assignment or subsequent assignments in the future, weeks down the road, we can learn from maybe overdoing and get it right the next time. Does that make sense?
Yes, Chef.
Yes.
Sauces and the application of sauces. If we're going to do a sauce, it needs to be a proper sauce. Now, y'all haven't had stock soups and sauces yet, and maybe one of you is in stock soups and sauces now, but we're not really learning the mother sauces and derivative sauces from those. That's going to come down the road. Unfortunately, this is probably not the best use of compound butter. This much butter on the plate might mean I melted the butter and then poured the butter on the plate, or I put a whole bunch of butter on the steak and it all melted and dripped down to one part of the plate. That's a lot of butter to be on one plate. It's going to be delicious. That's going to taste amazing. But that's one of those things that we lovingly might call a heart attack on a plate with that much butter. Anybody have anything else to add or say on this plate?
So I know that if you show my plate and if you don't, I would critique it, because when I looked at the picture, I would go back, even if I were going to go with this, and try to clean it up as far as the piece of green down there that's outside the glop of butter. And then there's some other spots that I'm seeing, the cleaning the plate with a rag. Again, I did not do it on mine. And so I don't know if you're going to show mine regardless. Yes, I think I would at least pull some of that out, and then up to the right of the broccoli, it looks like there's some juice that maybe, or something's, it may be the picture, I'm not sure, but.
And then things you'll get accustomed to using. I'll prepare one and snap a picture of it and put it in Blackboard, or have it ready for next week, next time. But we take a section of cheesecloth and roll it up really tight, and hold it with a couple of rubber bands. And it's almost like it's about the size of a custom rolled cigar. And so this thing's going to be about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch round, probably 3 or 4 inches long, and rubber bands on either side. And we'll stand those up in little 1-cup deli cups. And in those deli containers will be decidulated water, water with a little bit of white distilled vinegar. And we use those in the kitchen to to clean the edges of the plate. We keep it in the vinegar, which is a sanitizer. We don't necessarily, you will do this in food 3 and food 4, just with the bar towels. But that really is a sanitation no-no, because once you've wiped the plate with the bar towel, now you've contaminated the towel for the next plate. And so I'm just sharing with you what best practice is. In all cases, follow the lead of the chef and just say, yes, chef, and go with it. But in fact, maybe I'll talk to Chef Rogers about food 3 and food 4. And when we clean the plates, really ought to be with those cheesecloth rolls. It's just a little more sanitary, but that's a great observation, Andy, and something that we all, maybe from here out should be a takeaway. We can all do a little bit better job of cleaning and wiping the little drips and the little dots. Plates that are prepared for photography, high-end plates in busy kitchens, you're not spared the overspray or the drips that happen from the spoon that were unintended. We just take the 2 or 3 or 5 extra seconds to wipe those drips off, and now you have a picture perfect plate, just with a couple of wipes. Okay. What say you?
I know that plate. That's mine.
Oh,
The
okay.
steaks cooked perfectly.
Can I rip my own plate on what I think I did bad?
Well, I hope we're not ripping each other, but
Well,
yes,
I can be harder
Christy,
on
go ahead.
myself.
Rip your own plate.
I think I'm like the butter. That was part of my issue, like going back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Like I can't get everything ready at the same time. And so I think my steak, really wasn't quite like super hot, and then the butter just kind of flopped on there versus like looking pretty and being shiny, or something like that.
Yep. And so my butter had the same issue, I believe, and I was, the same. The one thing to be critical or constructive, when I look at the plate from a visual standpoint, okay, where's my eye focus? It's almost the broccoli, and I think maybe we want it to be the meat. And so I don't know, maybe if the broccoli wouldn't be better at the back. I don't know. That's just, when I look at it, the broccoli is almost in my face first, and maybe because it's higher than the meat,
Right.
from a height standpoint.
I totally agree.
When both of you take Healthy Foods and Nutrition, and you meet Miss Mandy Smith, our resident dietitian, and she is a registered dietitian, and you take Healthy Foods and Nutrition, if what Andy said is true for the masses, and the first thing you see is the broccoli, and that appears to be the feature of the plate, Mandy Smith is going to give you thumbs up and say, yes, yes, we did it. Finally, we've done a plate where veg ruled. We've got butter on the plate. We've got fatty steak on the plate, and the vegetable rules. She would think that is a marvelous success. So don't beat yourself up on that necessarily. I want to see more steak, but God may be a carnivore.
The plate's very clean, though.
The plate is very clean. Yes.
Yeah, there are no specks. That's very good.
Notice the, I guess we'll call it the ratio, kind of for going back to nutrition, something that we really don't spend enough time on. I'm overly sarcastic about things, but as we move forward, there's some shifting, there's some changing that's going on. And if we're smart business people as culinarians, we should be paying attention to things that may not just be a trend of today. And that is more and more people, the younger generation that will be feeding tomorrow there are more vegetarians and vegans. There are more people that are paying more attention to what they're taking into their body nutritionally, but they still want it to taste good. And the balance between protein, carb, fat, vegetable, we tend, especially in the South, to be very, very carbohydrate heavy, or very, very protein heavy, or both. And our veg is really more or less an afterthought. And notice this plate, there's more vegetable on this plate than there is carbohydrate. And nutritively or nutritionally, that's a winner. That's a plus. It's a bonus. We'll do one other plate, and then I'll spend a minute and talk about kind of the timing of things, because the one thing, if I'm going to offer some suggestion for improvement on this plate particularly, I want to mention two things. One is the treatment of the fingerling potatoes. Now, Christy, you've already identified yourself as the owner of this plate. Did you pick up product from the culinary school? Okay, so you probably you coarsely chopped a potato rather than using fingerling potatoes, right?
Yeah, because I tried to find some, but they're kind of hard to find.
They're hard to find.
I had to end up using these little company creamy potatoes.
Yep.
And so I had it in my head I was going to slice the fingerlings in half and kind of bring everything up, kind of position the steak where it kind of laid on top of it to give it a little more height. But these potatoes, that didn't quite work out the way I
Well,
wanted it.
great. And thank you for letting me pick on you for a minute. This is a good use for this kind of a plate for a steak meal, steak dinner. This is a good use of a standard russet or a Yukon Gold, or even if you're going to dice up or quarter, little B-sized potatoes. I think I mentioned last week in preparation for the week for the lab, those fingerling potatoes are hard to find, as Chrissy discovered, but also expensive. And so we don't want to do something like this that we're looking at. We don't want to do this with fingerling potatoes. We do want to do this with fingerling potatoes that we have left over in our kitchen. We bring in a case of fingerlings, and now we use them for the event that we bought them for, but we had to buy 50 pounds and we've got 15 pounds left over. What am I going to do with these 15 pounds? Well, do something. And if this is doing something with the remaining product, that's better than A, buying more product, and B, that's better than letting that product just go bad because I bought it. I had to buy this volume to get this price, and I have this volume left over. One of the things we have to contend with every day is, what am I going to use the leftover product for? And so hopefully I'll use this term. It's not a term you're going to find in the textbook, but it's a term you're going to run into in the business from time to time. I call it $1 million soup. And $1 million soup, I'm not just referring to soup, but take those fingerling potatoes. If I had to buy, let's say, a 50-pound container of fingerling potatoes, I was able to clearly pay for all of that in this particular event that I got those fingerling potatoes for. So they're all paid for, but I only needed to use 30 pounds. I've got 20 pounds of expensive potatoes left over. Well, if I put those in a soup, if I do a big catering event and I had a leftover pan of vegetables that never made it out to a buffet table, never saw patrons, do I just throw those vegetables away? No, I take them back to the kitchen, and that is tomorrow's vegetable soup. $1 million soup. You're starting to get the idea of what I'm talking about? Everything that we can do to minimize any waste, using the rubber spatulas to get the very last portion of mayonnaise out of that gallon of mayonnaise. Those are portions that go in the trash if we don't want that waste. But food left over from this event or that event that was prepared, maybe we overproduced in the restaurant. We want to get mileage out of that. So anyway, that's a sidebar thing, but we'll talk about the butter as well as we discuss here in a minute, timing things so that everything comes out nice and warm. You wouldn't want to serve this plate hitting the table in front of your guest just like this, because that plug of unmelted butter, even at room temperature, is not going to have the same mouth feel and umph of flavor as it would completely melted. I hope that makes sense. Okay, Paul?
The potatoes they look fancy.
I kind of introduced those last week, I think. They're called Hasselback.
Yeah.
So I actually tried to do that. Mine didn't look quite as good as those two do.
Those are very, very large fingerling potatoes. If those are probably a little more, I don't think those are fingerling potatoes, but I don't remember exactly whose plate this is. Notice the broccoli. Can you see the grill marks on the broccoli?
Yes, I was
Yes.
just getting ready to say something about that. I don't know how to do that in like my pan. I felt like the broccoli was like getting, when I was cooking my plate, I felt like the broccoli was getting kind of like mushy, but I never got it have any like color like that. I mean, if you could eat broccoli that looks like that, I probably would like it slightly better than I do. I mean, I'm never gonna love it, but that's got to be better than like some of the mushy stuff I've had.
It looks like they grilled it with the steak, put it in one of those grill pans on the, if not on top with the steak itself.
Yeah.
Maybe so. We're going to make an assumption here that this down here at the bottom is dollops, maybe little squirts of sour cream. I don't know for certain that wasn't identified in any text or anything like that, so I'm not quite certain what that is, but it would make sense. Certainly going with the potatoes, a little bit of sour cream, that, just a little value added, I guess. You can see that the potatoes, there's some herb, there's some seasoning on it. Who knows if some compound butter was placed on top and these were roasted. If these were roasted, well, I'm going to shut up. I'm doing all the talking. I want to hear your thoughts first.
So the steak looks like it's pretty close to medium rare. I mean, if anything, it would be on the rarer side of medium rare, maybe. Again, being hypercritical, it would have been easy to move that little speck just to the right of the sour cream dollops.
That's right there.
But that's minor comment.
What about the thyme that's on top of the steaks? The two steaks are kind of shingled on top of each other, and there's that sprig of thyme right here. Do y'all see my cursor?
Yes.
The thyme right here. What do you think of that?
I think, I like it. I think that it looks nice like that, but I know we're not really supposed to decorate. Go away, kitty. Decorate with, like herbs or whatever, that don't really, so unless they like used it, I guess, in their seasoning, which I can't tell, then maybe that would make more, it would make sense to do that, right?
Well,
Maybe I feel like I'm making stuff up.
no, well, you're mixing some things together. We can garnish with herbs, absolutely. It's probably not best practice. It's not best practice. I've used the example before of a key lime cheesecake with a dollop of whipped cream and then a big, beautiful a display, 2 or 3 leaves that open up of big, fresh mint that's in season. That mint has nothing to do with a key lime cheesecake, has no place there. It's pretty, but it serves no purpose other than it just looks pretty. And we want to be able to garnish our plates with let food decorate itself. But when we garnish, is this sprig of thyme, maybe this is going to test your knowledge just a little bit of herbs, in this form, is that sprig of thyme edible? Do, 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 do.
I don't think it is.
It's not. I mean, it's not going to hurt you. That's not going to the holy cow case of the trots, or it's not going to make you sick or anything like that. But thyme leaves are edible, but that sprig is very, very wiry, and it's going to feel like a great big giant out of place hair that you're trying to chew on, and it's not going to chew. It's difficult to cut with your knife. It's even more difficult to smash with your teeth. It's a terrible thing to try to chew on. And so stop place. To take the leaves off of the sprig of thyme, chop it down a little bit, and then sprinkle it all around the plate maybe. Okay. Okay. Now, let's use this plate maybe just a little bit to talk for just a minute about getting everything on the plate hot, fresh, and to the table hot. Yes, Andy?
So before, I wanted to go back to the time for just 1 second. So it seems like in the chapter on plating, and I've seen lots of pictures where rather than being a thyme sprig, it's a rosemary sprig. So that's not okay, or is that different? Or because I've seen it frequently, it seems like, or certainly more than once. So
food, one of these days we might have a little seminar class, not for credit, but food photography 101 is to do whatever you can to make the plate photogenic, and color combinations and height, and a sprig of rosemary goes a long, long way. I hate it for multiple reasons. And yes, so Andy may have identified one of those things that maybe the textbook says one thing and your instructor is going to say something different, or you see a picture in the textbook. Certainly you're going to see pictures online as you look for plating examples and things like that. And it's very pretty, but can you eat it? Can you eat it in the form that it goes on the plate? That's going to be one, maybe not the first, but that's one of your concerns with any garnish. Can you eat it? Second, does that garnish, is it an ingredient? Does it belong on the plate as a representation of the flavor of the plate? So if I've used a compound butter that has thyme, shallot, garlic, salt, and pepper, but I love the look of this long, beautiful, in-season, thick, dark green stem of rosemary, it's going to look beautiful, but it's not anywhere on the plate at all. It obviously has no business being the garnish on the plate. And so those two things are kind of my primary garnish rules. Was it used in the plate, used in the ingredients of the dish, and can you eat it? If we did a honey, lemon, rosemary grilled chicken, rosemary is a prominent flavor. So yes, rosemary's used in the dish, but do you want to chew on that 3 or 4 inch stem full of rosemary leaves? Or is it just a look pretty? If it's just a look pretty and I can't eat it, I'm saying it doesn't belong on the plate. And so while you're going to see, especially in the one of the problems with Google Images, and we're looking for plate presentations, one of the problems is, do you get your news from Facebook? Is that plate presentation from a reputable source? You know, well-meaning, sure. I mean, you can tell if it's just, you know, some guy throwing on some smoked chicken and you know, baked potato and a glob of macaroni and cheese, versus a Michelin star restaurant that has, you know, just this amazing food and amazing plate presentations. And sometimes those chefs, yes, are going to use a little sprig of rosemary. They're going to use a little bunch of thyme. They're going to put a little dab, a little pinch of microgreens. Well, kind of, I guess you could call it a third rule. It's never appropriate. It's never good to mix cold ingredients, a cold garnish on a hot plate. This is all hot food. And if you're just using colorful microgreens, this is not a salad plate. And so don't put microgreens on there. Now, I've said that. I know your Food 3 and Food 4 instructor, and there will be some plates that you're going to use microgreens, and she loves them. Who's right? I'm sorry that the confusing takeaway is whoever your chef is in that moment for that class or in the kitchen that you work. And so I try to keep it as simple as possible. Does the garnish have anything to do with any of the ingredients used in the dish? Can you eat the garnish? If you can say yes to both of those, then you've got a good garnish. Are there exceptions to the rule? Holy cow, there's exceptions to every rule. Well, I mean, did we put edible flowers inside the sour cream sauce? No, but an edible flower right on the side of the plate just might look beautiful. And your chef may love the look and let's go for that, or got a really good price on edible flowers, and so we need to use them. In the spring, you're going to see that. So any of you that take Food 3 next semester, you might see 1 or 2 or 3 weeks where, you know, really like them or not, we're probably going to use some edible flowers because culinary school is going to get a killer price on them. And so it breaks one of those 2 rules. You're not going to have edible flowers all chopped up and minced and added to a sauce. So at the end of the day, I guess the main example is yes, chef, and you know, follow whatever the chef says is appropriate. I'm asking us to kind of stick with this 2-part rule. Was what you want to use as a garnish used in the dish? Can you eat the garnish as it's presented on the plate? Long explanation, but does that cover what you were asking? And
Yes, thank you.
anybody else Want to disagree? That's fine. You can disagree. I'll fail you. This is a chefocracy, not a democracy. But I'm kidding. If during the week when you're getting ready to prepare your plate, you know that I don't answer generally emails and texts right away, but I usually get to you within 2 or 3, 4 hours. Shoot me a text or an email. Hey, chef, I'm thinking about blah, blah, blah. What if I garnished with blah, blah, blah? We can certainly chat about something before you dive into your presentation. Let's talk about making everything hot. I'm going to say it this way. There's a very simple, complicated rule to make sure you get everything to the plate at the same time and hot. And it is one of the, you kind of will pick it up by experience as we go throughout this class. But bears mentioning now, and maybe we pick this up sooner than the in-person class. We pick this up sooner than other classes have, just by Andy asking and everybody being curious about this. There are two real, I'll call these rules as well. There are two main things at play to ensure that all of the food comes off of the stove or out of the oven or on the grill, off the grill, comes to the plate, hot, still steaming, and ready to go to your guests all at the same time. The main two rules, or the main two things, skills to acquire, let's call it that, not rules. The main two skills to acquire is your ability to multitask. We have to develop, and for some of us, it's developing a skill by practice and practice and practice. We have to get away from the Sunday after church chicken dinner that we grew up with, that Mama used to make once a month after church on a Sunday afternoon. We come home from church, change clothes, Mama puts the apron on and goes right to frying the chicken. And when all the chicken is fried and is sitting off on the side of the stove, then she starts the potatoes. And when all the potatoes are made, then she's going to make the peas. And they're all going to be in separate vessels. So Christy is happy in making sure that none of the food touches and she can eat the one thing at a time. But the chicken has set, thank you. The chicken has set for an hour and a half. The potatoes have set, only 15, 20 minutes, because it doesn't take that long for the peas to cook. And we just get accustomed to somewhat crunchy, a little bit dry chicken, maybe delicious, but not steaming hot mashed potatoes, and really hot peas. And if you were like me growing up, the peas end up ice cold because, man, I'm not going to touch them with a 10-foot pole. There was no bacon in them at all, and that's just sin, and there you go. Our ability to multitask, our ability to fry the chicken, mash the potatoes, and cook the peas, make the sauce, sweeten your tea, set the table, all at the same time. Real multitasking is an illusion, because you can only physically you're engaged in one thing at a time. But mentally, we have to have 4 or 5 things going on at the same time. Maybe my water is boiling for a blanch. The potatoes are boiling, then I'm ready to mash and add the oil is heating up while I'm dredging the chicken, getting it ready to fry. But I've got these several steps going on at the same time. Multitasking is skill number one. Skill or knowledge to acquire number two is staggering the start times for each component of our dinner, for each component of the entree plate, because the amount of time that it takes to make your mashed potatoes, from boiling the water to finished potato, the amount of time that it takes to really heat up peas, if they're out of a can or they're frozen or fresh, they all cook a little bit at different times. The length of time that it takes to broil your steak, grill it on your grated skillet, or heat up the grill out on the back deck and prepare the steak to go on the grill, and how long is it on the grill. The ability to scaffold or stagger when I start each of those things, that's where meal planning becomes very, very important. And so in my mise en place, I'm going to mise each component before I do anything. So I've mised my steak, my potatoes, my peas or my broccoli. I've mised my compound butter. Maybe I've already made my compound butter, should have, during my mise, so that, remember, think back to food one. If I've properly mised, then all I'm doing in the cooking process is heat and assembly, heat and assembly, heat and assembly. Well, I need to stagger when I turn on the heat and when I assemble that component that goes on the plate, so that each component finishes really within about 2 or 3 minutes of each other. You can hold the potatoes for 5 or 10 minutes. You should rest the steak. Well, the steak's coming off the grill and it's going to rest for 7 to 10 minutes. Well, if I've blanched the broccoli and I blanched the broccoli during my mise, then my real cooking, applying the finished heat, is 2 minutes. So now I've got the time. Okay, my mise en place is going to be cutting the Hasselback of these potatoes. My mise is going to include creating my compound butter and rolling it, putting it in the fridge. My mise is going to include trimming, in this case, having the broccoli florets and then blanching them. And I can hold, once they're blanched, they come out of the ice, I can hold them cold until I'm ready to saute. Or in this case, I put them on the grill. Or if I'm going to put them on the grill, they're going to be on the grill probably a little bit longer than if I saute. But now I have to start timing kind of in my mind. Okay, the steak is going to take 6 or 7 minutes. This thick, maybe 6 or 7 minutes total on the grill. The potatoes, if I'm going to roast them in the oven, these potatoes are probably going to take about 15 minutes in the oven. My blanched broccoli, if I'm just going to saute it, that blanched broccoli is going to take about let's give it 3 minutes. Let's give it 5 minutes. Now I work backwards. Whatever takes the longest, I start that first. But the time that it takes, I have to take into account grilling the steak, but also resting the steak. So if my potatoes are going to take about 15 minutes in the oven, I Hasselbacked fingerling potatoes, not whole russet. They're going to take 15 minutes. My steak is going to take about 7 minutes, but about 10 minutes to rest. So the very first ingredient, the first final cooking step, the steak goes on the grill first. After the steak has been on the grill about 1.5 to 2 minutes, I'm going to turn it 45 degrees to get those nice diamond marks. And then I'm going to go put the potatoes in the oven. And then I'm going to go back to the steak and flip it over on the other side. And then I'm going to wait a couple of minutes and turn that steak another 45 degrees. And then I'm going to go heat up the saute, turn the heat on there where I'm going to saute my broccoli. And then I'm going to go back to my steak and I'm going to pull it off of the grill and apply my compound butter and bring it into the kitchen, maybe tint it with some foil so I can still hold it hot and let the butter melt. And a minute or two, my saute pan has heated up. Now I'm ready to saute the broccoli. My steak is resting. Just before I saute, because I can turn the saute pan off and wait a minute, I'm going to check the doneness of my potatoes. By this point, the potatoes are probably going to be soft and a little flexible to the touch, but not quite. That Maillard reaction hasn't happened yet. I don't have the crusting just quite there yet. It hasn't started caramelizing. So I'm going to wait about another 2 minutes. I check the potatoes and that caramelization is just started. I heat the saute pan back up. I saute my broccoli, turn the pan off, take the potatoes out of the oven. My steak has rested its good 7 to 10 minutes. Does this make sense? Do you see how it is work, though? All of this stuff, I've got to be mindful of all of these little details going on at the same time. And experiential learning. The first time you'd really try to do this and you burn part of it because, well, I forgot the sauce and my melted butter turned into carbonized butter. I have to start that again. That's going to affect your timing. This is something that is developed over time, but whatever takes the longest to do, you start that first and then work your way backwards. Sometimes a mistake people make is this takes the least amount of time. I'm going to do this first and then it's out of the way. Or I'm going to cook and prepare one component at a time. And when that component is done, then I'm going to move on to the next. If you're fortunate enough to have 2 ovens, like a stack wall oven at your home, maybe you can get away with doing that a little bit and you can turn your oven on about 150 degrees, which actually is going to continue to cook whatever it is that you're holding. And so you can't just cook one thing and put it in your holding oven and get away with it, if that makes sense. When you were working in the restaurant, your experience in food 3 and food 4 is going to be different than this because you will be focusing on one component, putting together this plate. The entremetier station is going to be taking care of the broccoli. Your rôtisseur station is going to be taking care of the potatoes in the roast. Your grillardine is going to be taking care of the grilled steak. Your sous chef is going to call out when it's time to prepare the plate. And you'll learn how to communicate with each other. Okay, the steak's going on the grill. Steak will be up in 15 minutes. Turning the steak will be up in 12 minutes. pulling the steak, resting the steak. Steak will be ready for the pass in 7 minutes. Potatoes in the oven. You may have a blast oven, and so your potatoes will be done in 5 or 6 minutes. The potato person's going to call out, potatoes up in 5 minutes. Everybody calls out heard. Then the broccoli goes down on the pan, saute up, and then everybody kind of calls out to each other, saute, the broccoli's ready for the pass in 1 minute. Potatoes ready for the pass in 1.5 minutes. The broccoli knows to hold back for just a minute. Then broccoli's ready for the pass. Potatoes ready for the pass. Steak walking to the pass, and everybody brings their component to the pass, and the sous chef puts it on the plate. That's how it works in the higher end restaurants. You become masters of this yourself when you have figured out how to handle all of those components all by yourself. And that's one of the things that we're doing. Now, what's confusing or what's not clear? Does this make sense?
Yes.
That actually really helps, because I think my primary problem, I don't know if that's what, Andy, I don't know if that's what your problem is, but I have like good intentions when I get started. I have everything ready and I got all my, mise en place ready, everything's, and then somewhere along the line, it just kind of all goes to hell, and it's like mass chaos until I get it all completed, so it's like, I don't know how else to describe it other than that's kind of what happens. And then like for the next hour and a half, however long it is, I feel like I'm like running around and can't keep everything straight. So I think if I had a plan, knowing how long this is going to take, how long this is going to take, how long this is going to take, that would help where I wouldn't feel so chaotic.
When Terrence, hold on just a second. I'll get to you in just a second. But it kind of in response to Christy's point here, having a plan. I am our American Culinary Federation lead certification. I'm our certification chair, lead certification evaluator. And so when certification candidates come to the culinary school to seek new letters to put next to their name, they're going to go through a very intense cooking experience as part of their certification process. And the most successful, very effective kitchen organization are the chefs that have actually a written plan. So Christy may have just created for us a new graded assignment. I'm not actually going to do this, but I would encourage you, maybe for the next couple of weeks, maybe for the rest of the semester, take a minute to try to write down. So in the certification exams, chef candidates write sometimes down to the minute. They have a time limit. A certified executive chef exam is 3 courses, 4 servings of each course, 3 hours. No mise has been done yet. Whole fish is brought in. Live lobster is brought in. They have to fabricate their chicken. They have to kill the lobster and prepare it. They have to completely fabricate round fish, a branzino, a grouper, a snapper, something like that. And then do all this other mise and all of these cookings for 3 complete courses, 4 servings of each. They have a 3-hour time limit. And the only way that really makes one successful in that is jotting down on paper, okay, I've got an hour and a half. Now, I'm not giving you time limits because each week we're doing something so vastly different. But this week, we're going to talk about it here in a second. You're going to roast and you're going to truss and roast a whole game hen, about a 4-week-old chicken. one game hen should be enough food for two people. Maybe for some of us, it's enough meat for one people, and there's none left for my wife, but that's okay. I'll go to the store and get another game hen, and we all get along and play just fine. But I eat too much meat anyway. I want to, maybe I've got to do a little bit of research. How long does it take to roast a game hen? How long does it take to boil the potatoes? We're going to make mashed potatoes this week. We're going to saute, hopefully broccoli rabe, but I think we have broccolini. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. How long does it take to do these? Well, then jot down on paper the same process that I described, kind of working backwards. What takes the longest? What steps do I need to include in my mise en place to ensure that when I'm actually cooking, that I'm just assembling and heating? Christy, does that make sense?
Yes.
When the work is done on the front end in a 3-hour executive chef exam, I can almost without fail tell you that this candidate is going to be successful because their greatest sense of urgency when they're working in the kitchen is the first hour, not the last hour. They are scrambling to get all of the mise en place done, and they're getting all of the mise done in enough time to give them plenty of time to cook all of these components for all 3 courses. And those people that are really just put their head down, don't have earbuds in their ear, don't have the game going on in the background, the TV's off, the radios are off, there's no distraction, and I'm completely focused on this mise, on what I'm doing. It's all in the mise en place. It really, really is. Terrence, I wasn't putting you off. What's your question, my man? I can tell your microphone's off, but I don't know about anybody else. We're not.
I can't hear you.
We're not hearing you. I'm going to open the chat box. Terrence, you might need to, maybe there's a connection issue or something. You might need to just enter something in the chat. If it's a question or a comment or something like that, your sound's out. We're going to drive on. Terrence, if you'll just put your comment or question in the chat, when it pops up, I'll even come back to this picture if we need to, or we'll address whatever your comment is. Okay, today or this week, there are 3 main components. I've not assigned a sauce. There's not a particular sauce. I didn't give you a recipe for a sauce. We've done a couple of different sorts of things. Feel free to use your compound butter if you want to. You might have extra compound butter. Maybe you want to add the compound butter as the butter for your potatoes. I'm just throwing that out. That might be amazing. Feel free to use, so my personal choice is going to be using the dippings in the pan when I roast my bird. Again, we're all using game hens, Cornish game hen. And a game hen, in case you didn't know, a Cornish game hen is not a special kind of bird. It's not something weird or different. It is chicken, but it's the veal of chicken. It's a baby chicken. It's about 4 weeks old. And so it's not a chick anymore, but It's whole chicken, fully developed, but very, very young. This is a little bit small to work with, but it is easy to work with because it's small. Part of what we're going to try to experience this week is called trussing. There are, let's see, just a conservative guess. There are 8,000 certified executive chefs in the United States today. And if you asked each one of them to truss a chicken, truss a duck, truss a goose, truss a turkey, you'll probably get 8,000 different versions. And so what I'm showing you here in this final picture, the main takeaway, I think here is an example of if we understand the why, especially for you analytical people, if we understand the why, the how comes to light. The how to accomplish the why will make sense. There's context, and it's easier to figure out. The purpose of trussing is to hold all of the bird in together, make almost like a ball. If I don't, then the leg tips, that stick out from the bird, and if I've got broken joints at the thighs, the whole leg and thigh quarters might flop out away from the main portion, the torso of the bird. Well, if that happens, the dark meat, my legs and thighs, are going to overcook long before the inside, the center. We've fabricated chicken a couple of times now between the end of food 1 and the beginning of food 2. That structure of the keel bone right here, right in the center of the two breast halves, and that keel bone that goes down with the ribs coming out from it. And right in that nook where the keel meets the ribs, in that nook right there, that's the thickest part of the breast meat, and it's the thickest part of the bird. And so the wings that are just flopping out, the legs and thighs that just plop out and open, they're going to overcook when I roast the whole bird. I want to tie it in a way. I've posted a video that I think is very descriptive, but feel free to search for others. You should be picking up a portion of butcher's twine, but it's very inexpensive to go pick up a little bit of twine from. We have butcher's twine in our Walmart in Morrilton, so I would imagine you can get it at your Walmart. You can get it at Kroger. I don't know about Harps, but wherever it is you get your groceries, I would be quite certain that Whole Foods and places like that would have just little bits of butcher's twine. It's just cotton string. You can try if you get some of your own, or I think you can cut off our big spool, kind of whatever you want. Take 4 or 5 feet of butcher's twine. Then you'll need about, 1.5 2 foot section for a little game hen. And if you take enough for 2 or 3 different, try it one way. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, use a little more twine and try a different way. All you're doing, the only thing we need to accomplish is bringing the wings in and bringing the legs and thighs in. And we do that with one singular piece of twine. And then we end up with this nice ball of meat, and everything will cook uniformly rather than having burnt pieces sticking out. This is not trussed, but I don't remember why I had this picture in here in the first place. It's just, well, you're going to roast a bird. Roasting's a dry heat method. Use your leftover compound butter. Poke a lot of that underneath the skin of the bird before you truss it. That can add some really amazing flavor to your bird. I'll give you a little trick too. You know, so we've done this method for checking degree of doneness, pinching the base of your thumb, and rare, medium, well done. If you remember that. Some will argue, pull your thermometer, check the thermometer about the temperature of your bird. Here's another trick. Use your tongs. When you think the bird is done or almost done, open your oven, pull the pan out. You can pull it all the way out, set it on your stove. Hold the chicken up. Let it drip either from the neck or from the tail side. Let the juices drip. Don't squeeze anything. Just hold it up. Observe where the drips are hitting the pan. Okay. If there's gray in the drips, your bird's not done yet. If there's red in the drips, you still have completely raw meat inside. Gray is you're almost there, but it's still undercooked. When the drips hit the pan and are entirely clear, your bird's done. Now you can let it rest, just like we would steak or anything else. Let it rest about 7 to 10 minutes while you finish off other things. Yeah, Terrence, that's an issue. And so one of the things, try this, everybody. And even those that are going to see this in the recorded version. If you're accustomed to having the radio going while you're cooking in the kitchen, at least once or twice. So this week, maybe this week and next week, both. What I would like you to try is nothing, no sound, no radio, no TV, no distractions. You don't want to kick people out of your kitchen, for example. This December, my wife and I will have been married 29 years. And I do the cooking. And it's really been more recently. My wife and I will be talking about, something significant while I'm cooking in the kitchen. But, that's something that's fairly recent. I don't carry on a lot of conversations when I'm just cooking. When I'm teaching and cooking, that's a completely different mindset and a whole different set of skills. But I don't answer the phone. I don't have my cell phone with me. Y'all know that about me in class. My cell phone stays in my office. I want to limit distractions. In the professional kitchen, I have found where there are radios, we're a little more relaxed. The productivity is less. The focus is less. The attention to detail is diminished. And in those kitchens, maybe all of us are familiar with the name Thomas Keller. Thomas Keller owns the French Laundry. And if you walk into the kitchen of the French Laundry, you can hear a pin drop. The only sounds you hear are the sound of the whisks against the stainless steel skillets. You hear the chop of the knives against the cutting boards. Chef doesn't even call out orders. They use a little radio system. Chef speaks at a normal voice and calls out the orders. But you do hear, the only time you hear during service, You hear, yes, chef, heard chef, 5 minutes to the pass. There's not a lot of noise as we focus on just paying attention to what we're doing. I don't know, give it a try. Andy, you had raised your hand and then unraised your hand.
No, it was actually the clap reaction to your 29 years of marriage.
Oh, that was a clap. Well, thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Still strong. Will be forever and ever.
Fantastic.
When she said yes, she earned her place in heaven. I think God should treat her right. She doesn't have to do any other tests or anything else. She earned her place in heaven when she said okie dokie, and I do. That's what I believe. She's put up with this all this time. 2 different kinds of ovens. We need to be aware of this. The same thing exists commercially, even in the culinary school. Those ovens that are part of the range in all of our equipment at the culinary school, those are conventional ovens, just like what you see on the right-hand side of the picture in front of you. Those are bottom heat ovens. There might be a little fan, but the heat source, the heat is really radiating from one central part of the oven. A convection oven cooks faster because it cooks more efficiently. Convection has a fan that forces the air in a circular way, evens out the air in every single zone and every part of the oven. It's equal temperature all the way around. And so most of the recipes still that you read today, number one, don't follow time on a recipe. Cook this for 45 minutes. That's merely a suggestion. You don't know how thick, you don't know the weight, you don't know the density, you don't know anything about what was used to test that recipe to come up with 45 minutes. Use that as a guide, but you also need to understand the equipment that you're using. And we never know what the equipment is that was tested for the recipe that we might be following. And so the stack ovens at the culinary school are all convection ovens. In the multi-purpose lab, in stock soups and sauces lab, in the restaurant, Le Culinaire, down in the gold lab where we all had food one, both conventional and convection. You need to know that this week about the oven that you will be using in your house. Do you have convection or do you have conventional? You might want to do a little bit of online research about the time that you need to plan on for your probably 8 to 10 ounce, 10 or 12 ounce Cornish game hen. Andy, yes, please.
So if we have convection, or what is your preference or your view on using convection versus conventional?
100% for convection.
Okay.
In baking, and really for everything.
Okay.
If I had the option, a lot of residential equipment we can get with a little fan switch, basically a switch on the side of the oven. We have one oven in our range, and that is a conventional convection, meaning it's always conventional unless I turn on the fan, which then makes it convection. The convection ovens still have a singular heat source. The difference is the type of fan that forces air all around the whole oven box. That's the difference. And so the same Maillard reaction happens, but the forced air is more efficient, is more even, and it makes the cooking faster. So we need to know that if you're using convection and you're reading a typical Better Homes and Garden cookbook, chances are that's a conventional recipe. Says roast this bird for 45 minutes. For this week, be sure even the recipe that's in Blackboard, I want to say the recipe I gave you is written for chicken. Well, you're not roasting a whole chicken. You're roasting a little Cornish game hen, a 4-week-old chicken, not an 8 or 9-week-old chicken. And there's a difference. And so that 35, 45 minutes to roast, if you're doing the Cornish game hen, it probably needs, 20, 25 minutes in a conventional oven. It might need 16 to 18 minutes in a convection oven. If it only needs 18 minutes in a convection oven, can you imagine the damage that you've done to that chicken if you leave it in there for 40 minutes before you check it? Let's call it chicken jerky or dog food. So here's good. This may be one of those. I'm giving you an idea of what to do. I'm not telling you the specifics of what to do because in your home, every single one of us has a different roasting environment. And so be sure you do a little bit of your, to use a real estate term, do your due diligence before you dedicate yourself to, I'm putting this bird in the oven. Does that make sense? And if you need a little guidance along the way, we can talk about your specifics via the text machine and email. I'm happy to help anywhere as we go. I want you to understand these 3 different versions of broccoli. The names that we float around actually do have, they refer to a specific age of the plant. And so broccoli rabe, and that's what we call it around here. Rapini is going to be something that you're gonna get from the Northeast. Okay, a member of the turnip family. This is not turnips. Broccoli rabe is baby broccoli. The florets have not started to form yet. And so the stalks have formed and they're not much bigger than green onions. They're more fibrous, but they're not nearly as fibrous as fully developed broccoli. There are no broccoli heads started yet. And so it's all leaves. And the vitamins and minerals, the elements that's coming from the ground through the roots are all first going to the leaves. That's developing the plant. The moment that you start to see, you'll see it in certain places. If you grow broccoli next spring, I think it's still early enough, you could plant broccoli in Arkansas right now to get a little winter harvest of broccoli. Broccoli will grow well in the spring. It will grow even better throughout the fall and be an early winter harvest. It grows with kale. It grows with several different spinaches. If any of you are garden people, Christy, I know you do quite a bit of gardening. I don't know if you do all year round gardening, but coming up with some broccoli seed and maybe something to try. But when you start to see the florets, we want to let the plant go. It's no longer broccoli rabe. We want to wait about a week and a half after we start to see the little florets form. And then we get these very immature florets. They're not full yet. They're very, very flexible. The whole plant is flexible. This is broccolini. It's an Italian version of the word broccoli. And when we get "ini" at the end of an Italian word, that means mini. That's miniature of this. So it's miniature broccoli. It's immature broccoli. The whole stem is about as fibrous as asparagus. So the whole thing is blanched. The whole thing is sauteed. We don't have to cut once we get to this stage of broccolini, all of the nutrition now is the leaves even start to shrink away as everything goes to the flower or the floret. When we get mature broccoli, these stems become so fibrous that they're really not worth eating. There are other applications for them, like broccoli slaw. We can cut them down really fine and use them in other things. But we're really just using the mature broccoli floret or the broccoli head and cutting the florets off of the entire stalk. As long as they're in the broccolini stage or the broccoli rabe stage, at broccolini, you've got the fibrousness, or you've got the texture of asparagus. I believe I asked for broccoli rabe every semester for this lab. Being this time of year, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to check today if last semester we only got broccolini, and that's okay. Cook it the same way. Blanch it, saute it. Broccoli, we already did that last week. It may be a repetition of the same thing. If you grilled it, blanch it and saute it. If you did that, blanched it and sauteed it, maybe lightly blanch it and roast it while you're roasting the bird. Give it a different method and a little different flavor by employing a different method. See how that works. Mashed potatoes, I'm not really going to give any kind of spiel on mashed potatoes, but you're going to mash potatoes this week. Besides the potato, 3 key ingredients really make your mashed potatoes. Heavy cream, butter, salt. If you don't have salt with the potatoes, even with butter and cream, you're going to get some richness, but that richness is going to be bland and lost. If you're not careful, I can't remember if I gave you my mashed potato recipe or if I gave you the textbook mashed potato recipe, but it should give you some heavy cream, butter, maybe 2 or 3 pounds of potatoes. And if you get 3 pounds of potatoes, I think about a pint or a quart of cream, maybe a whole stick of butter. That's probably my recipe. You might need to convert it. You might need to scale it back to the amount of potato that you want to cook for just whoever's in your household. But so here's some. They took their chicken, fried the chicken. Here's a classical plate. So very quickly, I've got three other plates here. Let's maybe only spend about a minute or so each one, kind of dissect this plate. Do you like it at all? What are the successes? What are the suggestions? And for this plate, if you suggest just completely redoing the whole thing, starting with a new plate. Okay, Andy gives us a thumbs down. What else from the peanut gallery? More thumbs down. I get it. Kind of enough said. It's a paper plate, first of all. You're not ever going to see that. Well, never say never. Really, never say never. We're never say never, but you're likely to never see this in culinary school. Hard to see, I think. It's really, really, yeah, Terrence, those potatoes had no sign of seasoning. You couldn't even get the tint of butter. What's the use of mashed potatoes without butter? We won't really learn about making foams. That's really what the sauce is here.
I was gonna say this plate looks a lot prettier. And a lot more, I guess, like technique maybe involved in this plating versus the other one.
Doesn't it look like everything is methodical?
Yes.
It was deliberate. So much so, look at these, it's garnish, but look at these leaves. They're even laying the same direction, the same way. This is the tweezer movement. Took their time plating. So Terrence, we're going to see this in the future. Y'all are going to really, we're already seeing it week by week. We're going to get some very amazing plates. And then I'm going to ask you, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the question as you consider your plating as we go forward. Can you plate this plate in a hurry? Because as we talked about a lot today, getting everything cooked to come off, yeah, Andy, maybe a cold plate. We talked about cooking everything, making it all hot at the same time, hitting the plate hot so it's served to the table hot. We can apply so much attention to the plating that we lose the quality of the food. And then what's the point? Is it just the art? I personally don't want to eat in a restaurant that's just about the art. So I'm just going to say, for the sake of time, I did this as our last plate to look at, kind of for a reason. You know, this is still a very attractive plate. You know, we considered size, proportion, or ratio, negative space. The plate is very clean, but this is also a plate that I can plate in the restaurant pretty quickly. This is a plate in a served banquet. We could serve this plate to 1,000 people and have 1,000 people served in less than 15 minutes. It takes a lot of work to get that done, and there's not just one or two people doing the plating. That's something we can discuss at a later time. Think about these things, how we wipe the plates. Again, continue to build on architectural design, creating height, creating variety and texture, variety of color, even flavors, negative space to draw your eye, all of those sorts of things. And we're going to end up with really, really good, amazing plates. Any final words or thoughts or questions? Anything you'd like to cover that we haven't covered? I'm over. Kept you another 7 minutes, but I think I told y'all, man, in the summer, Christy will tell you this, Terrence will tell you this. There are plenty of times that we may have had an hour and a half class, and we stayed for 2 hours. I'm happy to spend time in any discussion that you would like, except I've got somewhere to be. I've got another Zoom to be on in a few minutes, but my time's yours.
Thank you, Chef.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, really, y'all have a great night. You're doing marvelous work. I would have had this past week stuff graded before we came into class this evening. I think some of y'all know I'm doing some work in behalf of UAPTC and the culinary school with the American Culinary Federation and the future of online learning in the culinary school, and ended up in a couple of pretty long discussions and had an early morning. Anyway, there was just a lot going on today, and I didn't get to your grading, but I will in the next day, maybe before the night's over. But I won't overlook it. I'll send those comments as we do the grading. As always, if you have problems, issues, questions, you want to bounce ideas, the text universe, use the text machine, use the email. I'm happy to give you all the time that I can. Have a wonderful night, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Nighty night to all.
Y'all have a good week. See you
Thank you,
next
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.